Welcome to another Backyard Professor videos. I'm Kerry Schertz, the Backyard Professor. 1988, BYU held a symposium on the Book of Mormon, the Keystone Scripture. George F. Carter, one of the botanists from the geography department at Texas A&M, wrote an article called Before Columbus. He opened by praising the work of the New World Archaeology Foundation that the Latter-day Saints were working in for their exemplary work in Mesoamerican archaeology. I thought that was kind of interesting. His dissertation discussed the idea of cotton from the Old World and the relationship of cotton in the New World. The cotton hybrid, he says, occurred pre-Hispanic, pre-Columbian times. The cotton was originally separate from the Old World. The genetic strains from the Old and the New were different, but that they were recombined. He says that was because of transoceanic contact with humans. There's no other way the genetics could have been recombined. Very interesting discussion and analysis on that. He said, I sent a study to a genetics department about the suggestion of transoceanic contact and transport of the Old World cotton across the ocean. The genetics department analyzed the genetics and came back and said that Stephens had proved his case about as definitely as one could in science. He says, I always thought that was a very sage observation. Science never proves things in absolute terms. We only deal in high levels of probability. I've heard LDS scholars ridiculed for working with the probability of various different linguistic, historical, and archaeological and doctrinal aspects of the Book of Mormon. But that is precisely the method of science as George F. Carter, a genuine scientist, thinks it is. Anyway, he discusses this idea of the Old World cotton. He goes through various different plants. The sweet potato. Now this is interesting because the sweet potato is an original American product. But he says the sweet potato has been found on Easter Island as well as in Hawaii. He's arguing this comes from America out into the world, across the oceans. Transoceanic transport the other direction. I thought that was very interesting. He says, finding them on Easter Island in Hawaii opens up Pandora's box because you cannot let people carry plants out of America and simultaneously deny cultural contact. So this is very interesting. He says this is on page 170, that was on page 169. He says there are mountains of evidence that the people of America learned from transoceanic travelers that have been put forward intermittently for over a century. He discusses very different animals such as the chicken. His analysis of the chicken is fascinating. He says the chicken has had oceanic contact and transport. He discusses the importance of the Atlantic. His conclusion, I want to get to his conclusion. I can't give you all the vast details. He said, currently I would judge that contact with America across both the Atlantic and the Pacific was occurring before or as early as 3000 BC. Well, say hello to the Jaredites then. That fits in that time frame. Listen to what else Carter says. I have come to call it intermittently continuous contact and widely scattered as to place. This is precisely the Book of Mormon picture. Intermittently continuous. First we have the Jaredites way back in the Book of Ether. Then we have centuries later the Nephites. And then 100 years after the Nephites, the Mulekites showed up. All transoceanic contacts. Intermittently continuous. And at different places. When we come to understand it fully, Carter says, we shall find it tied to the rise and fall of empires and dynasties in the Old World. Bingo for the Book of Mormon. The Jaredites left because why? The fall of the tower, the scattering of the people, the destruction of the ancient dynasty. The Nephites left why? Because Babylon swept in and completely destroyed Jerusalem. But Lehi was forewarned. Carter hits it right on the head. These are Book of Mormon themes, clearly. He says, I see the probability that the Amerindian civilizations stem from old world contacts, and this seems to be leading to the notion of a single origin of civilization, and this is no small conclusion according to Carter. So here we have a non-LDS scholar, a diffusionist, who argues and demonstrates with the genetic evidence, with the linguistic evidence, and with the actual physical evidence of various plants, animals, words. He demonstrates transoceanic contact between the different worlds across both oceans, the Atlantic and the Pacific. And he says they date back to 3000 BC, and it has happened intermittently, continuously, throughout the centuries. All of these are serious Book of Mormon themes. They're in the real world. They're discussing the real, genuine, ancient world of what was happening with real people, living real lives, with real problems, and finding real solutions. This argument that the Book of Mormon through the last, say, 100 years has gotten weaker, this argument that the Book of Mormon archaeologically is completely unsupported, that it doesn't have any history whatsoever, that there's no linguistic characteristics similar to the Book of Mormon in the ancient world, all of these arguments against the Book of Mormon, that it has nothing going for it, that argument is simply false.